What's going on guys, Aero here, and welcome back to another video. Now in today's video, I want to talk to you guys about Nintendo's newest Nintendo Switch system, which just launched yesterday from the time of making this video, the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Now I did manage to pick one of these systems up yesterday. I actually did have a pre-order from Walmart, but they told me that I wasn't going to be able to get it till like a week or so later. And yesterday I was on campus in one of my morning classes at college, and then I was just thinking, you know what, there's a Target that's actually just on campus, and I was like, you know what, let me just go for fun and see if they have a Nintendo Switch OLED model. So I walked into the Target, and surprisingly there was actually two Nintendo Switch OLED models that they had in stock. So I was just like, you know what, let me just pick one up there and have one. So that's where I got it, and I've been playing it so that I could give you guys some of my early impressions and just thoughts about the system. Now of course the Nintendo Switch OLED model did launch alongside Metroid Dread yesterday, which I also did manage to pick up, but unfortunately I haven't been playing it yet because I'm still trying to work on this video and trying to get it out for you guys. So hopefully after I upload this video I'll be able to unwind and relax and play some Metroid Dread all night, but I've heard that game is really good as well. Everybody's saying it's really amazing, so I can't wait to play it. And if you didn't know, I actually recently just got partnered with Best Buy, so because of that I will have links to the Nintendo Switch OLED models as well as Metroid Dread down below in the description. So if you guys do decide to buy any of these products, definitely consider using the links because those links will support the channel a lot and I would really appreciate it. You basically just gotta click the link, and then if you buy the system or product from there, it really helps out the channel. But in terms of the Nintendo Switch OLED model, I figured I would make a video like this because it's only been like a day since I've been playing it. It just came out yesterday and everything is still kind of fresh in my head. So I figured I'd make a video like this and just give you guys my early impressions and let you guys know how I feel about it. And I also did ask you guys on Twitter as well if any of you guys managed to pick up the Nintendo Switch OLED model, for how you guys feel about that as well. So we'll take a look at that, and I figured I'd just give you guys my thoughts so you guys can also kind of see how everybody is feeling about this. But this isn't really going to be like a video about if you should go out and buy this. I'm planning on making like a more dedicated video about if you should buy a Nintendo Switch OLED model or if it's right for you, so you can look out for that video sometime in the future. But this video is just going to be me giving you guys my initial thoughts on how I feel about the system. So really, after unboxing the system yesterday, the first thing that I noticed right away is that the actual build quality of this Nintendo Switch OLED model feels a little bit more premium and better than the current Nintendo Switch that we already have. Now at first I didn't know if this was just because it was a brand new system and I just pulled it out of the packaging, but I decided to get out my old Switch as well that I've had since 2017, day 1, March 3rd, when it first came out. I decided to pull that Switch out and compare it to this one, and I did notice that the actual back of the Nintendo Switch has a different type of plastic. Now unfortunately it's kind of hard to show you guys with these images. You really kind of have to just pick up both systems and feel the back for yourself, but the back of the Nintendo Switch OLED model definitely feels a little bit more kind of sandpapery and has a little bit more of a texture to it, whereas the actual back of the normal Nintendo Switch is just more of a matte smooth finish. So it's actually kind of weird because it's more kind of premium, I think, in terms of the Nintendo Switch OLED model, and it definitely makes it a little bit easier to hold as well. It's not kind of like that matte slippery type of feeling that we have on the original Switch. Now another thing that I noticed is that the rails on the sides of the Nintendo Switch OLED model definitely seem to be a little bit more sturdier as well. They're using less screws, and even sliding the Joy-Cons onto them and holding the Nintendo Switch in handheld mode, I definitely noticed that with the OLED model there really isn't any wiggle or wobble in terms of the Nintendo Switch with the Joy-Cons on it. I know people have always been talking about that, where they hold the Nintendo Switch in handheld mode and sometimes the Joy-Cons are kind of just wobbling in there. They're definitely very sturdy with the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Now of course I don't know if this is just because it's a brand new system and I haven't really kind of worn it out yet, but it definitely does seem to me that it is stronger than the one that was on the original Switch. Now the OLED model is also using a new style of vents on the top of it. If we actually compare here to the original Switch as well as the OLED model, you can see that the design for the vents is different on the top, and this is actually pretty good because I have heard stories that people said that usually because of a lot of the heat that's coming out of the Nintendo Switch on the top, with the old Nintendo Switch model it seems like the plastic kind of starts to crack there and becomes a little bit brittle. We've even seen images of where at the top of the vent it just starts kind of cracking. So it looks like that the OLED model is definitely going to fix that because it's using a more stronger plastic like I mentioned earlier, and it also has a different design with the vents, so it's definitely not going to be cracking now. Another one of the big features with the Nintendo Switch OLED model is of course the kickstand, and I gotta say the kickstand for this system is incredible, especially if you use the system at all in tabletop mode or you just like to have it kind of propped up while you're playing. It is amazing on the Nintendo Switch OLED model. It is so rigid and hard to kind of actually move it, but you can also put it in so many different positions. You can bring it all the way down, you can bring it all the way vertical. It's just really well made, and I'm really happy that they decided to do this because the kickstand on the original Switch was just very flimsy and it kept falling off, and a lot of people just really didn't like it. Now the Nintendo Switch OLED model also does have a newly designed dock, and this dock actually comes with an Ethernet port that's in the back of it, so I did plug in an Ethernet cable yesterday and tried to see how that works, and it was pretty fast and just like kind of what you would expect if you already had an Ethernet adapter using the USB on the back of the system. So if you have that, it's pretty much like the same exact speed and everything, but I was using that yesterday because I did have to kind of transfer all of my data over and re-download everything, so I was testing that and it was pretty fast with the internet here, so it's pretty good that that is included now, and it'll definitely be very useful for people who do play games online. Now Nintendo also did say that the OLED model comes with better speakers, and to me it definitely seems like that the speakers are a little bit louder, but I didn't really notice like any kind of drastic change with them. I actually played like a couple games with the speakers on my old Nintendo Switch system and then also on the OLED model, and it did sound better on the OLED, but I wouldn't say it was anything like super crazy better or anything that makes you just go like, wow, this is incredible. It just sounded a little bit more clearer, and it definitely seemed like it was just a little bit more enhanced, but nothing too major. Alright, so of course with all of that out of the way, now we can talk about really the biggest feature about this entire Nintendo Switch OLED model, and that is of course the screen. So the first thing that I noticed right away when turning it on is the screen is actually a pretty big deal. I mean, on paper when they say like it's going from 6.2 inches to 7 inches, you're like, oh, it's only going to get bigger by 0.8. It's not really that big of a deal, but really when you hold it in your hand and do play it in handheld mode, that is a very bigger screen, and it definitely does make a pretty big difference. And of course the biggest selling point of this system is the OLED screen, and if you don't know what an OLED screen is, really the way that all of the screens work on the current Nintendo Switches right now is that there's a white light in the back of the system, and that's what really kind of makes the display brighter and then allows the colors and things to go through. But with the way that an OLED panel works, every single little pixel has its own individual light, and they turn on and off depending on what is shown for the screen. So that means like whenever something is really dark, all of the pixels can just turn off themselves and it looks very, very dark and really kind of rich. And when all of the colors are needed and everything is kind of very colorful, those lights can also turn on by themselves as well, and so each little pixel will light up by itself and it just looks very colorful and vibrant. And it's very hard to kind of show you guys this on camera or even in photos. You really kind of just have to pick up the system and see it for yourself, because when I did pick it up and play it, I was like, wow, this actually looks incredible. Games just pop out so much more if you're playing it in handheld mode on the system. And I mean, I have one image right here of me playing, of course, Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition, my favorite game of all time. Of course, that was going to be the first one that I tested out. And you can see right here with this comparison, the one on the bottom here definitely looks way more vibrant, and you can see the colors just kind of popping out of the system. And this is still kind of, I would say, even a harder image to kind of really describe and convey how good it is. You really kind of just have to pick it up for yourself and see it in person to see how big of a change it really is. And so the screen is very colorful and vibrant, so I would say that if you are somebody who plays a lot in handheld mode, you would definitely really enjoy this, and it would make your experience better. Now I tweeted about this on my Twitter as well, so just took a look at my Twitter and see if we got any responses. I don't think that there's going to be a lot of them because I don't think a lot of people did buy the Nintendo Switch OLED model, but I said right here, going to be uploading a video today on my first impressions with the Nintendo Switch OLED model. If any of you guys also got one, definitely be sure to comment your thoughts about it here. How do you feel about it? Reply and you could be featured in the video. So let's see here, Supreme here is saying, I quite enjoy the overall improved build quality, better buttons on the main console, sturdy and adjustable stand finally, and a screen made out of glass. The normal Switch feels like a cheap toy in comparison, and that is definitely true. Like if you do pick up a Nintendo Switch OLED model and hold it, you will notice that it's actually a little bit heavier as well. I forgot to mention, it's not really anything noticeable, but it just feels a little bit more premium. The actual plastic that's on there on the back definitely feels like it's a little bit stronger, and it just feels a little bit more premium to hold in your hand. Let's see here, the Nintendo Doomverse says here, my thoughts definitely much more of an improvement than I initially thought. And I mean, I kind of feel the same way as well, because on paper it just sounds like this is going to be having an OLED screen, but a lot of these other things I didn't really notice until I actually picked it up yesterday and opened it, where I was like, wow, the plastic on the back here is actually feeling a little bit different. It actually does feel a little bit more premium, so that was actually kind of something that I didn't really know from just seeing all the trailers and videos, but it was something that is kind of cool to notice when you actually do pick it up. And really, Juan here is saying a huge improvement for handheld mode users and for day one users like myself who have a shorter battery life like with the pre-2019 models. And that's also very true as well, because if you guys didn't know, the Nintendo Switch OLED model does have an improved battery compared to the original day one Switches, so that's actually a pretty good reason to pick it up as well if you do play a lot in handheld mode and you do want a better battery life. But yeah, of course there's not really a lot of comments here because I wouldn't really imagine everybody bought a Nintendo Switch OLED model, so to the people who did answer here, thank you guys so much for replying. And remember, if you ever want to be featured in videos like this, then just go and follow me on Twitter at Aero. And so yeah, there you go guys, those are my very early impressions on the Nintendo Switch OLED model. Of course, I am planning on making a more dedicated video about exactly who should really go out and buy this system and who should upgrade, so you can look forward to that. If you enjoyed this video, then definitely be sure to click that like button and also comment down below and let me know how you guys feel about it. Did any of you guys manage to get a Nintendo Switch OLED model? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know how you feel about it. Or are you planning on buying the Switch OLED sometime in the future? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. If you're new to this channel, then please be sure to subscribe. I'm definitely going to have some more Nintendo content in the future, so definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Click on that bell to become part of the notification squad. Go follow me on Twitter at Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.